Ganga River Rescue is a game about learning to conserve the Ganga River water and rescue the living species in the Indo-Gangetic Plain from extinction. It's an hour-long 2 to 4 player game which requires a large area to play. Now let's get acquainted with the different cards of the game. There are 32 Ganga River cards. Each card has two sides, one the lighter clean side and a darker polluted side. Goal cards are what a player collects during gameplay, and each goal card is assigned a certain victory point. Action cards that come up during gameplay help clean the river water, whereas the event cards lead to the pollution of the river water. Each action card shows the deck number that it belongs to, the victory points it's assigned, and the number of water cards that can be restored as clean. Event cards also have a deck number assigned, and the number of river cards that it can pollute. Event cards go into effect immediately, and both cards affect all players. There are 80 different living units representing the species found in the Indo-Gangetic Plain. Each living unit has a deck number assigned to it and also a code assigned based on its scientific name. Every living unit can survive upon a specific list of other living units which are listed by their respective codes. Notice that certain living units require a specific number of river cards to sustain, which is represented at the bottom of the card. Now sort all the different card types into separate decks to begin. Collect all the 14 goal cards, shuffle them, and set aside face down. Now collect all the 32 Ganga River cards and deal 8 river cards to each player. Sort all the living units into 4 different decks: the beginner deck, decks 1, 2, and 3, based on the number assigned to each card. The beginner deck has a star assigned on top of the cards, and each player gets 4 beginner cards to start the game: alluvial soil, deciduous forest, wheat, and sugarcane. Place the action and event cards into their respective living unit decks. Shuffle them each separately and set them as a stack with deck number 3 at the bottom, 2 in the middle, and deck number 1 on the top. Create a riverbank in the center of the play area with the draw deck consisting of all the 3 living unit decks, and place the goal cards on top of the draw deck. At any turn, there should be a total of 4 cards from the draw pile and 4 goal cards open. If you look at a 2-player setup, it should look something like this. The riverbank is in the center with an event zone where the event cards are placed, player 1 ecosystem, and player 2 ecosystem. Now let's see how to build a living unit chain using the 4 beginner cards and 8 river cards. Each player can start 2 living chains with his beginner set. One with alluvial soil, which doesn't require a river card to support the chain. Sugarcane can build on top of both alluvial soil and deciduous forest, but since it doesn't require a river card to sustain, I'll just place it on top of alluvial soil. For the second chain, we start with deciduous forest, which requires a river card, so we use a clean side of the river card to build a chain. We then place wheat on top, which can only build on top of deciduous forest. Choose a starting player. During a turn, every player must select a living unit card from the open cards in the riverbank that best fits in their living chain. Refill the riverbank after every turn from the master deck. During a turn, a player can pick only one card from the draw pile line. He can always start a new chain or build on top of an existing one. Each living unit can support 2 other units, so a player can build a chain on both the right side and the left side of one living unit. A living unit can build on an existing chain only if it can support it. Here, the spotted eagle can survive on banyan tree, sugarcane, and wheat. But since it requires 2 river cards, I choose to build on the existing chain and use an additional river card to support the chain. If a player cannot fit any living units from the draw pile line, he can always migrate within his ecosystem between the chains. It is important to remember that each living unit can support two other units. So here, the gharial can also survive on top of the wheat card, and notice it also requires two river cards. But as long as we already have two river cards at the bottom of the chain, we do not need to add any more. But if a living unit which requires three river cards, such as a Bengal tiger, is added to the chain, then we need to add the third river card at the base. If an action card is opened during a player's turn, he can either pick a living unit or an action card. An action card, if selected, can either be applied right away or saved for a later time. But event cards take effect immediately when it enters the riverbank. Read and follow the instructions on the event card, and then place the event card in the event zone. Here, since the event card says we lose two river cards, we can use the reserve Ganga river cards and convert two of the clean ones onto the polluted side. A player can strategically use an action card to convert any polluted cards into clean ones based on the number allowed by the action. When a player chooses to apply an action card, it also benefits all the other players. Once the action card is used, it's put face down and no longer in use. Event cards cause the polluting of the clean river water. If you have enough cards in your reserve, you can convert the clean cards into polluted ones. But if you don't, then you will have to choose from the base of your chain and turn them over. That will result in one of our living units, such as the Bengal tiger, which requires three river cards to migrate into another chain within your ecosystem or to the next player's ecosystem to find sustainability. If no player can support it, then it's placed in an extinct pile. And now for the goal cards. A player can collect a goal card when its conditions are met. A player can pick a living unit and a goal card in one turn. Replenish the goal cards and the draw pile cards after every turn. The game ends when four events have occurred or all the goal cards have been collected. Scoring begins at the end of the game. Each player counts the number of points collected. Each living unit is worth a point. The victory points collected on each goal card, and each action card has 2 points assigned. The player with the most points wins the game. Living units can always support two other units, but you cannot build two chains on a river card. Remember, a player can pick only one goal card per turn. A player can pick a living unit and a goal card in his turn if it satisfies the requirement. You can always rearrange your ecosystem during your turn. Use all the action cards before the fourth event occurs, because once the fourth event occurs, the unused action cards become invalid. Fact check other players for honest and fair gameplay.